something. Just opposite Accra International Conference Center, you will see party members, party faithfuls.
Yeah.
A lot of them, many of them there, gathered there in support of what is happening in the chamber.
Yeah.
Now, I spoke with them earlier and their support took them while they are in the chamber. But now that the MPP caucus leader has left the chamber and is going towards their end, I believe he is going to address them. Because that's exactly the direction that we are also best, including their leadership, to come back to the chamber when proceedings. Now the security here is quite tight. You could see the police, we could see the military with their apparatus, and we could take over and put things under control. Now the question now is, will history repeat itself? Because
represent people who had voted for you because we were of the same political belief. You cannot come back and pretend to represent them. That is strike. That is strike law. And we do not need to go further into that. I don't think that there's any issue there. All of us, both MPP and NDC, we must see the way forward. MPP's constitution clearly says they are automatically no longer members of the party. And I think we must see the way forward. We know the way forward. And we must be advised by that and not plunge the country into this needless chaos we are seeing now. It's not chaos yet, but we are, these needless few days of tension. So I know Right Honorable Speaker will do the right thing. I know our NDC majority side will also do the right thing. I hope that the 4 MPs whose seats have been vacated will also be able to do the right thing. I want to thank you so much, and we will continue this conversation another time, Leonard.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a last question, if you can permit me.
Very last.
Okay. Because you've won 2 caps before, one as a politician and one very much as an attorney general and a key player in our jurisprudence and the law, why do you think this matter has divided public opinion? And this one we're talking about just for ordinary Ghanaians, voters, etc.
Oh, it's normal, isn't it? I mean, this is politics. We are some 6 weeks, 40 days before an election. We are busy out there raising our political beliefs, talking to our people, getting people on each other's sides. So it's kind of normal that the whole country would be poised to do this. I don't want to raise tension by saying even 1 or 2 choice phrases, but honestly, this should not have happened at this particular point. We are out on the field campaigning. Our people are looking up to us as leaders. Let us be the leaders that we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Betty Moldidrisu is a former Attorney General, Minister of Justice as well, and just when it comes to the issues, seem to have dealt with on the side as a politician, very much so as somebody who plays a key role when it comes to the law as well. Practicing lawyer, former Attorney General. Well, we have to go to Parliament where Alfred Okanse is ready. And Alfred, we've been looking at the live proceedings in the chamber. The MPP led by Afenyo Makin, they've walked out, or not necessarily walked out, they've retired to their offices, so to speak. What do you make of the situation based on your interactions with key members of Parliament and key personalities where you are?
Ron, thank you. So, as you rightly indicated, the NPP caucus led by Alexander Afenyo Makin have decided to vacate Parliament and go into their offices to wait for the speaker's arrival. For them, they have also resorted to that position that the NDC caucus also communicated on Sunday during their press conference, that they would only respond to the direction and communication of the Speaker of Parliament. Alexander Penyomarkin, the Hutu member of Parliament, was quite clear when he was addressing the press that he is well aware that the Speaker's office has indeed been served. And so they would expect that the Speaker, with his long years of experience in law, would also acknowledge that service. As to whether that's going to be done, we'll wait to see how the coming minutes ahead of us will look like. We're getting strong indication that the Speaker, as we speak, is on his way, not to Parliament, which is currently being hosted in this temporary location at the Accra International Conference Center, but first to his office that is within Job 600, as has always been the case before he proceeds to Parliament. But the Honourable Ionadisu, the Tamale South Member of Parliament, is working around. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is TV3. This is thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Leader will talk to us. Leader will talk to us. He 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 will talk to us. And I just wanted to find out from you and how the songs have been so far. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. So yes. So perfect. Okay. We're coming there. So that's our Ionadisu. We're going to catch up with him in a bit. We understand that they are having a crunch meeting in there, and so he's needed to address the NDC caucus as we speak. He's just okay. I'll be in a bit. So he's beckoning on us that right after his meeting with the caucus, he would also be speaking to us. So stay with us here on your election command center. Bear in mind, it is because of his petitioning that all of this is playing out as we're seeing. The Honorable ABF Husseini is going to be joining us in a bit. He's a Sagnarugu member of Parliament. We'll have a quick conversation with him as well and how things are playing out. But as we speak, we understand that the leadership of the NDC caucus in Parliament is having a crunch meeting ahead of the arrival of the Speaker of Parliament here in Parliament, Alban Sumana, Prince Bagwin. So we're keeping a close eye on that as well, and we'll tell you exactly how things are playing out. But right now, we do know that there are some filing processes that we've gotten some information that the Speaker's lawyers are going through the filing process to stay the Supreme Court's directive to Parliament. In fact, that's the information that we're getting right now, and so we'll be getting you some more as we go on here on your election command center. But the Honorable ABF Husseini is the Sagnarugu member of Parliament, going to be joining us in a bit to have a quick conversation on some of the issues and how things are playing out right now, and then also where that's the NDC MPs as well, the position that they have taken on this particular issue and how things are playing out right now in Parliament. But I can tell you that, as was expected, there are a number of persons, especially journalists across the world, who are here to witness what is going to be happening today. And as was communicated yesterday in the statement from Parliament, some measures, security measures have been put in place here. If you get in, you're thoroughly searched before you get into the Chamber of Parliament. And in fact, as we speak at the moment as well, we've seen a heavy police presence here. The military were here earlier. When I spoke to them, the commander who was leading the group of military personnel here, I met them around the forecourt of the State House. They indicated to me that they were not here for any business related to Parliament. They were here to train and then also to mark the UN Day, which is just 2 days away. So this whole week has a number of activities outlined ahead of the United Nations Day, which is on Thursday. And as a result, they are having to go through these activities as well and how issues are playing out right now. And so at the forecourt of the State House, there is a flag raising ceremony with some military personnel who are with the United Nations detachment. And those are the military personnel that we saw here. and they are not, according to them, having anything to do with the business of Parliament. Honorable A.B.F. Hussaini is the Member of Parliament for the Stagnant constituency. He's joining us right now. A.B.F. Hussaini, thank you so much for joining us here on GD3 live right now. And the NPP caucus have decided to go and wait for the Speaker in their office and leave you here in the Chamber of Parliament. How does that strike you?
First and foremost, let's thank you for working so hard and conscientious to uphold the democracy that we have. I want to commend you to continue on that trajectory of holding all of us, I'm not talking of India, all of us accountable to the constitution of this country. That is the way. But I'm sure that our colleagues on the other side, the minority side, that is the ethnic minority, I'm sure they have seen like the hate. Clearly, following Mr. Speaker's visit, which has designated as a majority, we came and guys, we are occupying our seat, waiting for Mr. Speaker to come to that place. I'm sure they have to legitimately take their seats on the minority side. I'm not sure whether that was part of the experience. That we in the NDC side, by the grace of Allah Almighty, we've sat here today at the majority. We are going to sit there until January 7th, and I believe January 7th we get the requisite majority and continue. So, after we have made this that sitting on the majority, this will commence way up to January 7th when we'll be sworn in. And we'll continue.
I see. And even before the NPP caucus leader, Alexander Fenemakin, walked in, some of them were also occupying the majority side with you as well. So it doesn't look like they've agreed that.
What I know is that it is not uncommon for members of Parliament from the other side to talk about sit with their colleagues, and when you can saw that they were chatting. So I'm sure they came on a chat.
They came to visit.
Yeah, to visit our parties and chat. Because they know where they rightly belong.
Where do they belong?
Minority.
They haven't accepted them.
I think that this crowd, they know that is what they can't set. That is their destiny now. It's been set by law. And they can't do anything about it.
Well, they have taken this matter to the Supreme Court, as you might be aware.
So let's wait for the conditions. Because as we speak, and I've heard people say that this one should have been jumped as no, it shouldn't. Alfred, we are operating a doctrine of separation of powers, checks and balances, where the three organs of government are independent. None of the organs can dictate to the other organ how you should conduct your proceedings. For instance, Mr. Speaker cannot go and tell the chief judge, take this person to this court or change this judge and put him there. Right? Mr. Speaker has no such authority. Neither can Mr. Speaker go and tell Mr. President, appoint this person as minister or take this action in this ministry. The same way, the Chief Justice has no authority to direct Mr. Speaker about the proceedings of this House. She has no such authority. And if you have listened to all the legal luminaries who are talking, they say that it's an official overreach. That the Chief Justice has gone for a power grab. What she did, she has no authority to do what she has done. But she cannot direct Mr. Speaker how to conduct the business of this House. It's an overreach. So it has no effect. And I can tell you without any item that we are anchored in the belief that the ruling that Mr. Speaker gave is a proper, not just the ruling in terms of the laws of our country, but the practice and the hard facts. Alfred, I just need to draw your attention to the fact that Mr. Speaker making that decision. You saw that he said that he had gone for the notice of poll from the electoral commission. Yes. And the notice of poll presents evidence of hard facts about the change in the status of the aforementioned MPs, and that all their status had changed from
the MPP MPs.
Yeah, the MPP MPs and also the independent. The independent has also transmogrified from an independent to an MPP, yes. And the MPP also had changed from their party to independent, and so
including an NDC MP.
Yes, including our colleague Pachiaka. So Mr. Speaker said that those are incontrovertible facts. You said that these are incontrovertible facts. And once they are incontrovertible facts, the argument that nobody disputed it.
Right.
Nobody disputed it.
Honorable, appreciate your time on this, and please say we're going to have a quick conversation a lot more on this, but let me remind you, it's still live here on your election command center, live from Parliament. The Honorable Haruna-Idrisu, the Tamale South Member of Parliament, thank you so much. And yes, indeed, but looking at how things are playing out right now from you, and we're live on TV3 right now. But as we speak, the MPP caucus have decided to go and wait in their offices. But Honorable,
I'm assessing my ground.
the NDC caucus is having a meeting.
Yes. I'm having my consultation. Let me finish. I certainly will speak, but not now.
You will speak.
I will speak, but not now.
But the Honorable Haruna-Idrisu there is indicating that he's going to certainly speak. In fact, as we're talking right now, there are a number of caucus meetings happening in Parliament. That's in the Chamber of Parliament and outside the Chamber as well. He has walked out with his other colleague members of Parliament, having seen a number of them in small groups, having discussions, strategizing on what to do next. So that's what's going to happen right now. We're keeping an eye on how things are playing out here in Parliament on your elections command center. So stay with us, and we're keeping strong and close tabs with how the members of Parliament are positioning themselves. What we do know, in fact, is that the NPP MPs are currently in their offices awaiting the arrival of the Speaker. So that's one that as well that we're keeping an eye on, and approaching the NPP MPs, specifically where they are in the offices. We'll have a quick word with them, and then also how they are strategizing ahead of the arrival of the Speaker of Parliament. And stay with us shortly. We'll have Samuel Nate George, who's a member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency, who has also clearly communicated what the party's strategy beyond today will be, and that they have resolved to stay the majority in this 8th Parliament. And that is one that both parties have also resolved to do. But as to whether the Speaker would either heed to, or as it were, stand his ground with reference to this directive from the Supreme Court, is one that every one of us is waiting to see and to hear from them as we go on here on your election command center. And so we have some members of in fact, Dr. Kisela Toforcing has also just walked out with 2 members of Parliament, well, who have just gone to our left, are grouping groups of 3 and 4 members of Parliament. It is unclear why they are, but this is one as well that gives us a clear idea of how the NDC MPs themselves are strategizing going forward, and then also to hear exactly what the way forward will be for them. Honorable Murtala Mohammed is seen having a conversation as well with Honorable Haruna-Idrisu. Is one that you'll see all of them in groups. Ahmed Ibrahim, who is also coming in right now with the Bole Member of Parliament, the Bole Bamboy Member of Parliament as well. And in fact, you're seeing a number of them coming through right now. George Pekuri Kitegan as well. Skeposa Member of Parliament is coming through right now. And a number of them have taken position and seeking to hear exactly the one accord, one leadership direction from their leader, Dr. Kisela Toforcing, who has already spoken and communicated to the press what the decision and the direction of the NDC caucus in Parliament will be. They have occupied the majority seat in Parliament, that is the right side of the Speaker. And so we will see whether, based on how the end of the day will be, this particular position they have taken will be one that the Speaker will affirm or otherwise. But we do know that the Speaker's lawyers right now are also preparing to file a defense in challenging the directive and authority and jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in giving this particular directive to Parliament. So this is one that you'd want to stay with us here on your election command center as we get a lot more of the NDC MPs to speak to, and as well get their views and comments and opinions on how things are playing out right now. And we will have Samuel Natijo joining us right now. Is the Member of Parliament for the Ningo Prom constituency. We want to have a quick conversation with him, gauge the mood ahead of the few minutes we have ahead of us right now here on your election command center to tell you what the members of Parliament, especially the NDC caucus, have decided going forward. But it is also instructive to put across as well that earlier we got information, and in fact, someone at the George is here with us. Is a member of Parliament for the Ningo Prom constituency. Appreciate your time, Honorable. Thank you for joining us here on TV3 live right now. The NPP caucus have decided to vacate Parliament, awaiting the arrival of the Speaker, because they say they are still in the majority because of the ruling by the Supreme Court. Is that one that, as a caucus, you are going to, as it were, accept, or the expectations of the Speaker would be to give a final determination?
Well, the NPP has shown gross disrespect to the Speaker. If the NPP is saying that the Speaker should come and sit in the chair before they come in, that shows gross disrespect. Either about parliamentary standing or customary law. You don't expect the Speaker to come and sit in the chair before you walk. By all parliamentary procedure anywhere in the world, members of Parliament are seated and we rise for the Speaker and the mace to arrive. Right now, the NPP minority group in Parliament is trying to tell us that they are bigger than the mace of Parliament, that they are bigger than the Speaker of Parliament. So the Speaker should come and sit before they come. What's disrespect? But I mean, it speaks to the arrogance of Parliament, the arrogance that has beclouded their sense of life. For us, we are in our minds, but the majority of us are so declared. Nothing has changed since then. The notices of polls have been put out, and we are going to continue with the ruling of business.
Well, they say the Supreme Court has said otherwise.
The Supreme Court doesn't determine the business of the House. The business of the House is not under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Have you seen the Supreme Court tax directive to the executive, to a minister of state or the president? Have you seen the Chief Justice sit and panel? But even when somebody was abusing the executive instruments during COVID, did you see the Supreme Court issue a directive? But Sebi, as they say, P. Back when an enemy Harry. So he's the one they will disrespect. And I think Parliament itself has contributed to this.
Why is that?
Because Parliament has sat aloof and allowed the judiciary and the executive to not ride for too long. In the case of the LGBT bill, Parliament is enjoined by the Constitution, Article 106.7, to transmit a bill that is passed by this House straight to Parliament. There is no injunction. So why is Parliament not transmitting the bill? Why has the Speaker not insisted on transmitting the bill? And I stood in the floor of the House and told Mr. Speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, if the President has asked the Secretary to write a cease and desist warning to you, cause the clerk to also write a cease and desist to the President, that we will not entertain any business. It's quid pro quo. But because we bent over backwards for them. When you give people an inch, they will take a back. And that's why today, because we have allowed them to do the things they've done, they've become so emboldened that they think it is within their rights to be able to determine to Parliament what we should do.
To the extent that we need to wrote that letter saying the Parliament don't transmit this bill because there are cases in court, you are expecting that the Speaker would reciprocate that same action?
Absolutely, because there's no injunction. As to speak, is there an injunction against Parliament?
No.
Is there an injunction against Parliament? It's been 8 months since we passed it. Is there an injunction? No. So why has Parliament not exerted its authority? And because Parliament has failed to exert its authority, that's why anybody judges engaged in whatever activism will take the kind of action they take. But Parliament will not be subject to judicial activity.
Well, if you listen to the leader of the NPP caucus, the reason why they decided to resort to the Supreme Court, some have challenged the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in this matter. But he says that to the extent that the Speaker communicated in the manner in which he did, he overstepped his bounds. It cannot be the case that the Speaker can sound as though he is interpreting the Constitution and say that he is only applying the dictates of the Constitution, Article 97.1.
The Speaker did not seek to interpret the Constitution. only about by the Constitution enjoins the Speaker to announce the vacancy of the seat when same is occasion. And then Article 97 gives you the basis on which that vacancy can occasion the death of a member of parliament. So if that has been occasioned, and there's evidence of same from the electoral commission, and the speaker communicates him, what is the Supreme Court interpreting? In fact, the Supreme Court has set its own questions and answers, because the ruling the Supreme Court gave is completely different from the case Afenyo took. Afenyo took a case on Monday, last week Monday, to the court. Placed an injunction on the speaker for passing a determination on the status of the form. The Supreme Court only sat on Friday. Meanwhile, the speaker had made the determination on Thursday. So if the speaker had determined on Thursday already the matter before the Supreme Court, what was the Supreme Court ruling on? What have they ruled on? Except they chose to set their own questions and answer their own questions. So now the Supreme Court is the applicant in the case, has been the judge in the case. They can't be judge, jury, and everything in their own case. Absolutely not. The Supreme Court can't be a plaintiff.
Well, we saw a number of the NPP MPs as well at the majority side with you seated there. How's it going to end?
Well, they've all vacated. They have no business there. And let's be clear. The issue of majority and minority in this parliament was determined by Speaker Bagwell, not by the vote. And that's why I keep saying that the most unintelligent commentary I have heard, the most unintelligent commentary I've heard so far in this whole conversation is what Mahmoud Bawumia said. When he says that if the NDC wants a majority to go to the poll, the majority he claimed they have, did he get at the polls? At the polls, they did not get 137. NDC got 137. So where did they get their majority? And those who remember, in January this 2021, the speaker was not calling them the majority caucus. He was calling them the MPP group and calling us the NDC group. Until the speaker determined that, okay, upon the CMA's application, he had two routes to take. Either say that every time voting was going to occur, he would count his chairman's votes depending on where he votes, and that would be it. Or he would take the route he took, where he decided to add a chairman's number to theirs to make them the majority. And so it was a ruling from Mr. Speaker that made the NPP 137 become the majority in Parliament. It wasn't the polls. So, but what does he want to say? And that's why I say the most unintelligent argument. Because what he is asking for, that he claims is defending. He didn't win at the polls. At the polls, he got 137, got 137. That's not a majority. I mean, but I would understand if Dr. Bawumia does not know that 137 is equals to 137. It's the reason why our economy is in a mess.
Talk about Andre Siama. Now that the effect of the Speaker's decision as communicated on Thursday is no more the second deputy.
Yes, we will elect the second deputy.
You're going to elect the second.
We will elect the second.
The conversations have started already.
I believe we're done with that conversation already. When the Speaker comes, we will notify him about it.
You're done with the conversation of who is going to be second deputy Speaker?
Yes. Yes.
You want to give us an indication?
No. We'll do that on the floor.
You're going to announce who the second deputy speaker is today.
It's a process of natural action. Parliament must have two deputy speakers. One from the first deputy from the minority group, and the second from the majority group.
And that's going to be from you, the NDC.
Definitely. Definitely. If they want to, put it to a vote. We don't have a problem.
Thank you.
Thank
Someone
you.
as a judge is member of parliament for the Ningo Program constituency. Give us clear indication of the direction the NDC caucus in parliament is. This is your election center. We're live with parliament, giving you every bit of the detail as it plays out on TV3 and also 3 and the 92.7. The NDC MPs are the only ones in the chamber right now. The NPP MPs have resorted to their offices, awaiting the arrival of the speaker. That's what George indicates in disrespect to the Speaker of Parliament, because his entry now, what we are saying, will not witness the NPP MPs here in present, and we'll see against or they come in. That's another issue to look at as well. And so, Roland, you can see how things are playing out right now. We will engage some of the leaders of the NDC caucus in Parliament shortly, but they are resolute that they are in the majority. Roland.
Very much, Alfred Okanse, monitoring events there in Parliament, spoken to a number of key personalities just to get what the mood is. As of now, we know that Afenyo Makin has led the MPP side of the House, the MPP caucus. They have so far retreated to their offices, and the substantive position he holds now is they're waiting for the Speaker to call for proceedings to start, and then we'll have the business of the day. Haruna Idris in your picture there, and a lot of consultation ongoing in Parliament. But substantively, we have to come back to the studio, do a wrap-up, and we're grateful to you, three personalities, for standing with us throughout the period. Indeed, we didn't know that we'll have to travel this far. But Vincent, what do you make of so far the position has been taken by your side of the House also to make sure that you follow due process?
Well, I think that this is an exhibition of maturity on the part of the majority side of Parliament, led by the Honourable Afenyo Markin. Indeed, we had already indicated, even when I came this morning, that we are not going to give them, going to give to them what they want. We are not going to give in the showdown. We are going to make sure that it is the law that will govern this country. And so, as the leader said, we will leave it to the Speaker for the Speaker today to make a determination whether the process or the ruling that has been filed on him is going to abide by it or not. We all know the consequences for not abiding by the orders and rules from the Supreme Court. But to end with my submission, I hold in my hand the Daily Graphic. What the Daily Graphic, the front page says is that Supreme Court ruling binding on Parliament. Legal experts tell NDC caucus. Supreme Court ruling binding on Parliament. Legal experts tell NDC caucus. And some of the legal experts are Albert Kwashiga, he is a law lecturer and legal practitioner at UPSA. And Samson Ladi. In fact, if you open the page 3,
also Esan
Kuma and Justice Abdullah and all. So, my brother, it is never true that almost every lawyer in this country agrees with the side of the NDC. It is never true. Legal experts are saying. Legal experts are saying that.
Misquoting you.
Legal experts are saying that the Supreme Court ruling is binding on Parliament, and Parliament has nothing really to do apart from agreeing to what the Supreme Court said. So I was expecting you and your side of Parliament to agree to what the Supreme Court is saying by not occupying the side of the majority side, because the Supreme Court has already stayed the hands of the Speaker. The Supreme Court has. Yes, that's what I'm saying, that the Supreme Court ruling is binding on Parliament. Legal experts are also saying it as in contradiction to what you really said. So the majority side is going to continue with these meetings today. When the Speaker finally gets to Parliament, I'm hoping that there will be precedent engagement, the leadership of the majority side and the minority side. Maybe around that time you might have indication as to the thinking of the Speaker of Parliament is. But to end, please, Mr. Speaker, do not be led into temptation. Do not be led into temptation.
What do you mean by shouldn't be led into temptation?
You should not be led into any temptation.
All right, point made. Your wrap-up comments on the subject. You want to react to him, of course.
Well, I clearly have the opportunity to defend my honor. When I made my submission, I said that legal experts agree with the position of the Speaker. That is what I said. And I don't think that is in any doubt. That had nothing to do with what the Supreme Court has said or not said. And I'm glad that the MPP minority in Parliament has agreed with us that we should all wait for the Speaker and to hear the direction that he is going to pronounce. And you see, nobody wanted a showdown and nobody was calling for a showdown.
Your WhatsApp platform showed you wanted a showdown.
As you concocted.
No.
If there was anyone...
You're saying it's fake?
Yes, he knows that. If there was anyone who did anything untoward, it was an Odombre going into the chamber before the appointed time.
You wanted to be an early bird.
And basing people from his constituency, as we saw in the videos, wearing MPP t-shirts and his t-shirts. So if there was ever going to be a showdown, if anyone was going to disturb the peace, clearly from the evidence available, It was not going to be from outside, both within the chamber and outside of the chamber. And so we are all going to Parliament. From here, I'm heading to Parliament. And we will do what is needful as per what the Speaker is going to come and instruct or announce to the rest of us. We are all law-abiding.
I have this one from a friend who says that what will happen if the Speaker comes in and adjourns Synodine, waiting for the Supreme Court to finish the hearing and determination of the matter substantively?
Well, as simple as that. Then we all go and continue with our campaign.
But the problem is that
whilst we wait for the Speaker to call us back, if it becomes necessary. If not, we will be there and then finish the campaign and see the end of the 8th Parliament.
Okay. You wanted to make
but the problem here is that government business is going to come to a halt.
Okay.
There are a number of bills. You remember the last time we went to Alisa Woto, that's about 2 weeks ago. I am on the same committee with him. We are on the education committee. And we are working on a bill. That bill is supposed to come to Parliament for us to deal with. There are about 8 or 9 bills, even from my own ministry. There is the University of Local Government bill that is pending before Parliament now. I think the first and the second reading has been done, waiting for the consideration stage. All these things won't be done.
That bill has hit a snag.
All these things are supposed to be done. The APA, I'm told, is still there. The last time I saw it, the last time I...
Is it got to do with that?
Because the education
is it got to do with the
education
substantive
regulatory bill allows it. That specialized institutions can be created. Please, the education regulatory bill allows it. Yes. The law allows it. Check the education regulatory bill.
Can't have a university, but
why should the local government ministry have a university?
And I'm saying that the law allows it. The law allows.
I'm not saying the law doesn't. The law does, but
okay.
I mean,
we are the parliamentarians. We are the parliamentarians. We passed this law just 2020.
Right.
We said
just this 2020.
How much?
So the point is that it's going to affect government business. I do not think that we should get to that point. 7 December is an election, is the election day. It means that from January to March, appropriation will have to be done. Expenditure and spending will have to be done. How are we going to do all these things?
Well,
it is our responsibility to do these things before we go into the election.
We will wait
whether
the
MPP or in the unlikely event that even the NDC wins, they will need money to be able to spend. If you don't have it, how is it going to happen? So it shouldn't be
that is appropriations for organs of government.
You shouldn't allow that to happen.
I've meaning to ask you this substantive question. Do you think that if, like the last parliament, the 7th parliament, 2017 to 2020 or 2021, if the MPP had the majority substantially,
we wouldn't have been here.
They wouldn't have been bothered about
We wouldn't have been here.
This
of course, it happened.
And
in my earlier submission, I mentioned that when it happened to Femina, they allowed it to happen to Femina, not because they had anything to offer, but it was because it had no direct effect on their numbers in Parliament. All right, and that is why I had mentioned the earlier ones that had occurred.
Right,
those who had moved from being independent into, and I said that what is important to me, NYS, is that the ruling that will be coming from the Supreme Court should have as part of it not just the interpretation, but how to carry out the implementation or execution of the Article 97. Because, you see, there is no execution procedure in it. Unless otherwise I am mistaken. It is just there. It's just as it is. So its execution or its implementation is subject to the interpretation of a speaker who is seated.
Certainly.
His understanding is what is going to lead or influence the implementation of it. So the Supreme Court should do us a favor. As it is about to interpret it, then they should come along with these procedures so that when somebody picks it, it is easy to interpret. Because as it stands, to me, I know that once Cynthia Morrison Honorable is a member of NPP and has declared her stand to go independent, she has automatically forfeited her membership. All right? And I also have the understanding that once the Electoral Commission has printed the notice of poll, all right, it means that Cynthia and her colleagues do not only have the intention to, but rather have actually acted.
Okay.
In absolute terms.
Actions that affect future.
You understand? She bought the form, she filled the form,
It
she
means that her
submitted the
allegiance
form.
is now
It's gone.
tainted, yeah.
It's gone. So I would agree. They have their own interpretation. You understand?
yours.
When they
Are you saying that it's an interpretation that suits them? So
Oh, of course. I mean, Obia will interest. What they are saying.
Okay.
So they have their own interest. Yesterday, when it was not so, they had the different. But you see, Roland, what happened, and the Ralph and your marking
that they're
addressing
retiring to
the media. To me, that was the only option they had.
You think so?
Of course.
You think he seems to have toned down from his earlier vociferous
He
position?
had no other option but to lead his side out.
Okay.
But to say that it would affect government business, I don't know the procedures in Parliament, but in my view, it won't.
Oh.
Because what I understand is that Parliament needs a certain quorum to operate.
But
If
you
we
need
are
a certain
still going
number.
to meet, do the calculation based on 275 MPs, 1/3 of 275 to form a quorum is about 91.
You need a certain number to.
You
pass
understand?
certain
If it is
critical
91,
decisions.
I believe that the other side has more than
That's not
91
right. That's not right.
to be able
Tell
to
him.
push it.
It's not right.
Does Parliament need a quorum to operate?
To have ordinary business. but to pass-
Professor, let me say,
to pass-
does Parliament need a quorum to operate? Yes or no?
operate, but to pass
questions
certain
first.
yes,
That's what I'm
but that's what I'm
Yes.
saying that yes,
Yes.
but
But
to
the
pass
other-
Simpliciter.
certain critical
So it has no
decisions, you need a
effect
certain number.
on government
We
business.
can conduct.
Ghana can go on.
But you can't make the
So
decision.
you mean
It
that
is not the first time
you mean
they
that
are
without the
doing
MPP caucus, you,
Oh, government can go on.
oh, is that so?
Can go on.
So they can
All right, let me read this.
Once
This
they
one is
make the
coming from
document,
lawyer Richmond Roxon. Let me. We have.
Who's going to
We can do
who's going to
You
accept
can do that.
We can do
When you make
All
a
right,
bill,
thank
the
you very
president
much,
assents it.
Vincent.
You guys are-
Madam President, I can't have any money.
Thank you for passing through. Dr. Clement Apa, thank you as well. And then also Nanea Sapong, thank you for passing through. We're so grateful.
We would hold on.
Okay,
Alan would come and
all right.
send-
So when the camera, okay, so we can, if you want to file out, you just go through.
Very well.
Yes,
We are done
okay.
for the day.
Yes, you're done. Thank you so much. Let me just read a couple of.
for an item 13, just like Alan Tremontin.
I mean, I'm on set, so I don't know what is taking place at the background. I think that just
But
putting me on the
definitely
spot-
to be an item 13.
some of the. Let me just read this comment and that's okay.
It's a 13 you don't want to mention, but anyway.
Lawyer Richmond Roxon says the speaker informed MPs that 4 MPs had vacated their seats. Simpliciter. The NDC became majority as a result of the speaker's announcement and ruling. The Supreme Court has made contrary orders. The MPP MPs ought to be in Parliament for the speaker to communicate his position on the matter pursuant to the order by the Supreme Court. He concludes, if the speaker decides to act contrary to the order made by the Supreme Court, the applicant knows what to do. He is a practicing lawyer. Very interesting there. Now, going forward also, I have this one from Eric Adade. Eric Adade says, look, we have to be serious as a country. The mood of the country is not right. Public opinion should have been measured in all the decisions that needed to be taken by the organs of state, including the Supreme Court. The Speaker is the one who leads the legislature. Now, if we keep having interferences by the Supreme Court, that doesn't set a good precedent, not only for this parliament, but for other parliaments to come. A word to the wise is enough. Now, going forward also, I have lawyer Eric who says, now who calls some? If the standoff affects government business, the MPP side is the one trying to stop the Speaker and Parliament from operating. In the United States of America, the opposition is in majority in Congress, and sometimes they shut down government completely, and nobody runs to the court like a crybaby to stop Congress. Okay, and so let me speak to Professor Ainin. Professor Ainin, good morning to you. Good morning to you, sir. Okay. What do you make of all that has transpired so far by way of, in terms of how it contributes or not to the security of the state substantially?
Probably you should repeat your question, because the first part of it was not very clear. Okay, so, and these are dangerous times, so I need to get the question right.
Okay, so a number of actions have been undertaken. Already this morning, we've seen armed military men at the premises of Parliament, and then also a number of actions that have been taken in terms of beefer security, etc. Party foot soldiers trooping into Parliament and all that. And so my question is very forthright. What do you make of these actions and how they impact national security, so to speak, and national cohesion?
Well, I think the symbolism of what people are seeing on their TV screens and what they are hearing creates a clear impression in people's minds that there is a crisis of leadership and a crisis of authority. In democracies where there is a separation of powers, one expects an elite bargain and an elite consensus around how that power is used and how that power is demonstrated. I think right now in Ghana, it's very clear that there is uncertainty as to who does what and who holds what kind of power. And I think we are stretching these fundamental principles of democracy and of statehood to an extremely dangerous level, in which right now we are on a very sharp knife's edge. And the checks and balances that ought to have prevailed so that we don't get to where we are have all been thrown out of the window. You know, for the ordinary people of Ghana, and for where I am now in the middle of nowhere, you know, who sits on the majority or minority side and who has the power, whether the Supreme Court or the Speaker, for most ordinary Ghanaians, it's a very esoteric conversation. It is not impacting on their day-to-day lives. It's not impacting on their sense of safety when they get up in the morning to go to farm or to sell, or when they are coming back from church or mosque in the evening. You know, so the conversation and the tensions that are being generated across this country truly is most unnecessary. But pride and expressions of power are now involved in what we are seeing. The democracies are governed by the rule of law and not ruled by law. And it looks to me as if we are being governed by rule of law and not rule of law. And that is creating the insecurities and the fear that we are experiencing. Right now, from some of the videos, and you can correct me, it looks like one party supporters are there right now. If other parties also mobilize their supporters, then I think we are going to see something which is not too nice. Now, we know from history, and particularly around the 7th of January 2021, when uniformed people invaded Parliament. We've never really gotten to the bottom of that. We shouldn't create an opportunity for that to happen again. So my plea is that
the broader interest of why people offered themselves to go to Parliament and hopefully to serve Ghana, which for this particular Parliament has not really been the case, should now guide them as we have just about 6 weeks to an election. Raymond, I'm talking about placing Ghana first because we've seen this Parliament pass some bills that are very disturbing. And certainly, this conversation is shifting us away from the Galamsey, which is posing an existential long-term threat to our country.
Yeah.
And this Parliament passed that legislative instrument to allow people to mine in our water bodies. But they also passed that legislation to allow them to flout the traffic rules. And right now, they are behaving in a way bringing our democracy to the very edge and the stability of this country dangerously close to chaos. So what I'm looking for is maturity, discernment, but even more importantly, remembering that when we serve for the greater good of this country. When I speak this way, some of my friends tell me, oh, Kwesi, you are unhinged. Because I want to place Ghana at the center of whatever we do and the decisions that we take. Right now, the larger interest of the state of Ghana and its citizens is in the hands of a few elites who have failed to achieve the consensus, but also placing Ghana at the center of their decisions. We need to pull back from the brink. And I am praying that the Speaker places Ghana at the center when he enters the floor or the chamber and makes his pronouncement.
Now, especially when this is happening, you've mentioned one Galamsey. In the run-up to the election, which is just, is it less than 2 months away? Thereabout. Okay, or just a little after, over 40 days. How does that send either signal positively or negatively, one, to the sub-regional community and then the international community?
Well, you realize, if I heard you correctly, you know, what is happening, one, is a worry to everybody, both on the sub-region, but also most certainly to the international community. And one of the things that those in Parliament should think about is that the international order has changed, in which were we to get into some misunderstanding or conflict, violent or otherwise, nobody is going to come to our aid. Because in terms of the geopolitical calculus, we don't matter. So we should be guided by what is happening elsewhere. If we continue down this slippery slope, and you see, we've struggled for 32 years to get to where we are. To destroy it, it's very easy. If we are not so guided by what is happening elsewhere and what is our own grander national interest, we make the mistake of thinking that, oh, everybody is watching, this is important for discourses around democracy elsewhere, and we are going to fight amongst ourselves. If the fight breaks out, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody.
Okay.
I think we need to be guided by what is in the larger interest of the Republic of Ghana.
If you take a look at how the MPs, on one hand, in terms of both sides, tend to do the interactions, and there seems to be some level of camaraderie, but then in their posture and communication to the public, they seem to be creating a posture of being at loggerheads, some level of animosity, etc. Do you think it sends some negative signals to the citizenry who could be using this as a premise to behave differently, and so that could affect national security in the run-up to the election?
Well, yes. You know, we've always pleaded for politicians to behave in a manner that does not create confusion in the minds of the followership. Because the masses of followers see on television and then hear all the robust arguments and the shouting and the insults, and they presuppose that that is how politics is done. We never see the pleasant moments and the light-hearted moments where there is joking, patting of the back, hugging, having a drink together, eating together, going to each other's weddings, you know, funerals. We don't see those things. You know, politics is about touch. And right now, the perception in this country is that politics is a game of animosity, of mistrust, of abuse, and of violence. Okay? Right now, with only 6 weeks to the election, what is happening has only fed into these perceptions. And it would be useful, and I think it's actually very critical that we move from that point. Even before this hula baloo, the December 7th election was about Ghana's survival, was about doing politics in a different way, was about choosing a new set of leaders who would move us from the catastrophic experiences that we have had the last couple of years to a process or to a period of peacefulness, of economic growth and development, and more stability. But it is clear from what we are seeing that these expectations from the public are very far from the minds of the people that we have voted to pass the laws to move this country to a totally new level of development.
All right. Now, if you have to give the best security advice, based on your experience, I've interacted with you for the better part of my career, and I know that you just don't work physically, you also work covertly as well. What would be the best political security advice to the government, the ruling party, and the opposition party?
Look, can you repeat your question? There's a lot of noise behind you, so it's very difficult for me to hear.
I'm saying that I know that because of the type of work you do, your interactions are varied. Your sources of information are varied. If you have to give the best security and political advice to the government of Ghana, the ruling party and the opposition party, what would it be? Especially at this time and in the run-up to this election.
Well, it's very simple. Actually, two things. Remember why you got into politics and who you are serving. That you are not serving yourself. You are serving the people of this country. That's number one. Number two, when you let us slip down this slippery slope and it gets out of hand, you will not escape yourself. Think about yourself. Think about your children. Think about your children's children. None of us will be able to survive this. We have a very short time to pull back from the brink. And this afternoon will be a test of our discernment, maturity, and hopefully our love for this country. These are dangerous times, and I'm hoping that we will demonstrate the leadership and the sacrifices that are necessary so we can go for this election as peacefully as possible.
Thank you very much. Professor Emmanuel Kwesi, and he is a security expert and a political analyst as well of international dimension, I have to say, and still works in the sector, consulting the sector variedly across the world. And it's very important we emphasize that he's contributed to Ghana's security, governance, transparency, and political discourse, the better part of his international professional life. I also do know that we have the latest reports coming in from our correspondent, including Alfred Okanse in Parliament, Eric Egbetan, and the rest of the crew, that the Speaker has arrived. We'll show you live pictures, as you can see. And